Good morning, guys. We are here this morning in New Jersey, which, believe it or not, we have willingly entered. Now, you might be asking yourself why we've done such a thing. Well, that is because we have a couple engines to drop off today, one of which will be powering my new Porsche 911 Turbo. This morning, we're headed over to the absolute legends at AIM Performance so they can let us know what's going on with the 911 Turbo engine, and more importantly, let us know what it's going to take to get her back in tip-top shape. So we are obviously in the right place here. The first thing I see is one of the most recognizable 997 turbos of all time. This is formerly Gio from Real Street's car. At this point, everybody knows this car. Everyone's seen it on TRC. This thing is downright filthy, and I'm gonna see if I can convince them to start this thing for me in a little bit. One other note, I haven't seen a lot of good wings on these cars. I've been struggling, don't like the GT2, don't like stock. This one does it for me. I'm gonna have to find out what that one is. All right, Joe, AIM Performance.
How are you?
Nice to meet you.
You too.
Gonna give us the grand tour here, I suppose.
Yeah, we'll walk around real quick.
So how long have you guys been here?
Here we've been for about 2 years.
Okay.
We were down the road for about 6 before. It's got the assembly room right there. This is all fabrication stuff. Right here, all turbo kits, exhaust intercoolers.
That's a fantastic color combo there.
Yeah.
Is this the Meteor Gray, or am I getting that wrong?
I think that's what it is, yep.
Red interior, that's phenomenal. What's the deal with the R8 up there?
It's a Alpha 12 car.
Okay, cool.
996 turbo, sequential conversion, doing RY pipe and titanium exhaust on it. Some other little goodies.
Are there a lot of people still doing the 996s like that?
Lately, yeah, for some reason,
okay.
We're getting a bunch of them in again. So.
I've always liked them. I figured nobody else really likes them because everybody talks so bad about them.
I guess it just goes like in waves, you know. Yeah. We'll go for a couple months where we don't see them, and
for
then
sure.
We do welded cooled pipes. There's a couple plastic elbows under the manifold and stuff. So we switch those to Sharkwood, like a nice stainless steel one. Just as like a preventative maintenance thing. Once we get it apart, we decide what direction we want to go with it, and figure it out from there.
All right, as I mentioned last video, we also have to do a turbo kit. Fortunately, they have plenty of options for us here.
If you want to go the route of ditching the VTGs, we have a long tube Schedule 10 stainless manifold that we build here. Moves the turbos back about 3.5 inches, so you have more clearance for intake piping and stuff like that with a larger frame and bigger housing turbos. We have another manifold that's just kind of a flat style 3-into-1 collector. Okay. Still has external wastegates on it. I think for what you're doing, it'll be perfect.
So one other thing I noticed while we're here is a car that was owned by somebody that we know through the Lambo R8 grapevine. I've always liked this car, and I love the bodywork that's on it. This is the NR Auto GT2 kit. Seeing this car in person and seeing the fit, it looks so good. I love the flares. That's something I also want to do on this car. Apparently, it's a little bit easier with the GT2 bumper. That's something else that's in the car. It's the 991 steering wheel. Absolute must do. That's on the agenda sooner than later. Honestly, if I didn't see this car in person, we would be sticking with the turbo bodywork, but this thing might have just changed my mind. Check that shifter. Ridiculously good looking. All right, guys, AIM was absolute madness. Unfortunately, that is a good thing and a bad thing, because now I thought I had a solid plan for the bodywork on that car, among other things, and that just completely screwed it all up. However, for now, we're just waiting for them to have a chance to tear into that engine, then we'll head back up to New Jersey and see what failed on it. As for the rest of today, we're not headed back to Maryland just yet. Right now, we're headed further north in New Jersey to stop by Auto Couture Motoring to pick up another key piece for the Porsche build. Apparently everybody has a 911 turbo hidden away. So I was gonna wait till we get back to the shop because we have some other stuff to open up, but I wanna see these things. Hey. That's the story of my life, getting sidetracked by dogs.
Yep.
Anyway. Slick. What's the dog's name?
Buddha.
All right, I think they're Buddha approved. They're definitely Buddha approved. All right, we're paid up. Those are our last goodies for the day. So I'm not gonna bore you with the rest of these deliveries. I'll see you guys back in Maryland so we can start digging into some other parts that showed up. I told Austin I was waiting on one more part before I show you guys everything that's came in so far, and the FedEx driver snuck up on us, so he got a video from down there. I tried to piece my camera together and ran out of the office, so I hope we got something. We're gonna go ahead and start with the box that's been here the longest. In fact, this came in the day after we got back from AIM. However, I did want to wait till we had a couple other things to open up. I figured it would be a little more entertaining for both of us that way. First up, numeric racing shifter cables. There were quite a few people who suggested I do these. Couple that with the fact that we actually broke a small plastic piece on the stock shifter cables, and this was a no-brainer. Now, I did consider getting the numeric racing shifter as well. I've heard wonderful things. It looks phenomenal. However, as you guys might be aware, we have to put a ton of money into that car. So right now, I'm gonna hold off on spending $1,000 on a shifter. Maybe we'll do that at some point in the future. Next up, a set of 997.1 LED taillights. Now, these are from FVD, but as you can see, they're just depots. Continuing on, and this is something I've seen people sharply divided on, the GT3 style nose vent kit. This kit's by Redline, and from what I've seen, it looks like it's the way to go if you want to do one of these vents. I want to take a quick second to shout out ECS. I know a couple of the guys there are watching the series. That's where we actually ordered this vent kit from. It came in like 2 days. Fantastic service, fantastic shipping, A+. This one we are headed out into the parking lot for. Now, if you're anything like me, you might have walked past a 997 with that exact lip before and not known any different. And ever since I saw Gio's car with the factory Aero Kit, I've not been able to get it out of my head. The minute we left AIM, infatuated with Gio's car, I hopped on my phone and started looking for OEM Aero parts. While I was able to find a front lip, it was about $1,200. Unfortunately, I have a bad history with expensive front bumpers, expensive front lips. So I tried to find the best possible replica I could. It actually looks good. Now we'll see how it fits on there. We're gonna go ahead and put that on when we do the nose grill, and then we'll have a better idea of if we got our money's worth. We paid about $300 from this thing, and it came straight from England. As you can see, it is very similar to the OEM front lip. However, it is ever so slightly more aggressive. And this brings us to the final part, which unfortunately isn't such a happy story at this time. I was really struggling with deciding on a spoiler for this thing, again, until I saw Gio's car. I'm not the biggest fan of GT2 spoilers. I straight up don't like the OEM spoilers. So when I saw his car, I knew that was the one for me. While we had the option to pony up for the OEM front lip and chose not to because I kind of treat front lips like a wear item, apparently the OEM Aero wings are simply not out there. And if you are lucky enough to find one, you're paying 8-10 grand plus. So while if I could have found one, I would have considered doing that because I consider that a lifetime part for the car. However, again, we couldn't, so I went with the next best thing, and that is a replica straight out of London. This part's made by Design 911. Honestly, It looks like a pretty nice part, especially when you consider the price. This thing shipped to America was under $1,000. I have seen a couple other guys on the forums install these. They've actually turned out pretty well. Some of them have shown up damage, others have came right out of the box and went right onto the car. Unfortunately, ours did sustain a little damage in shipping. I'm gonna give Design 911 credit because they did go out of their way to try to protect this. Unfortunately, sometimes there is no stopping the shipping companies, and DHL put this one through the ringer. Being in the salvage industry, I am all too familiar with the fact that freight companies simply don't care. Grand scheme of things, that's not that bad. That sits on the forward edge, the other part of the spoiler butts up to it, if there was another part of the spoiler. That's right, unfortunately the box showed up missing the other half of the wing. So whether that was an oversight when it was packed or DHL damaged the box, repacked it, whatever, and it simply never got put back in, I'm sure they'll take care of it. This will end up being nothing more than a minor inconvenience. I am not hopeful in this whatsoever, being that it already says that it's a DHL repack. So this does not look good. In typical DHL fashion, half of the spoiler is hanging out of the box. So again, not off to a great start. So there is a little damage on the bottom of the wing. However, that looks more like a production flaw or something like that, which totally understandable with a part of this quality. DHL, you screwed up again. However, you screwed up less than last time, so I guess I'm rolling with it. The point that was hanging out the box is not that bad. That's all we're left with. Honestly, in the grand scheme of things, I'm just gonna take it, whatever. Guys, it is finally the day we have all been waiting for. I just got the call from AIM and we are headed up there first thing in the morning to hopefully find out what's wrong with my engine. They've been swamped getting cars ready for Race Motive, which is the first big roll race event of the season here in the Northeast. Spoiler alert, our R8 car didn't do so hot. However, that's in the past and it's time to move back onto my heap of junk Porsche. Now, I do want to take a quick second to thank you guys for sticking it out with me. There's obviously been a lot more time in between these earlier videos than I would like. Fortunately, those days are about over. We have so many parts that have came in that if one area of the build's dragging, there's certainly something else we need to be working on. Interior, paint, suspension, whatever it may be. Also, I am still looking for somebody to paint this car. I'd prefer them to be on the East Coast, but I'll travel for the right fit. My only requirements are that they either have a YouTube channel of their own or they're okay with me coming in there and filming for this channel. I'm dedicated to keeping this entire build transparent and documented for you guys all to see, even if it's not necessarily on our channel. So if you have a great paint guy, make sure you put the information down in the comments so we can get this thing looking right. I'm also happy to announce I have settled on a color, and it is going to be in a later episode. And we're gonna head up to New Jersey tonight. We're gonna stay there so we can get to AIM bright and early in the morning. Actually, you know what? Gas prices are insane. We're gonna take the Tesla. All right, guys, we are back at AIM. Last time we got the Grand Tour, today we're getting right to business. They actually already got the engine undressed and they already tested the oil coolers. Unfortunately, because it would have been a very obvious and easy to fix issue, it wasn't the case. They're gonna fully disassemble the engine today and hope we can find something very obvious wrong with it. The worst case scenario here is we do all this and can't find the obvious issue, because then we're kind of screwed. Then the options are fairly limited. What do? Put it back together and just hope we fix the issue? That doesn't really work. The good news is if anybody's capable of finding the issue, it's those guys. For just a split second, I kind of got thrown off because, I mean, this car kind of reminds you of something, right guys? It even has a tow hook in the front, so that tells you it may actually be in similar shape to the one we have back at the shop. For this guy's sake, I hope that car's in a little better condition than mine. Here we have Brian. He's the man taking this apart. He's the expert. Nice to meet you.
Pleasure.
So, you are the master when it comes to these things, apparently.
Got a couple under my belt now, yeah.
A couple, yeah.
I got a couple.
It looks like you have a couple today.
Yeah, yeah. I've been in the assembly line just pumping them out, so.
Awesome. You guys do it right here, and I'm excited to see what we find. That was one of those cars I'm sure he was willing to pay whatever it took to get it, and I was not. So you know how that turned out.
So far, so good.
So to quickly explain what you just saw at airline going to the coolant passage there on the engine, that would tell us if there was a cracked head, a head gasket, something like that. They both held pressure, so it doesn't look like our issue is there, so we're gonna have to dig a little further into it. While we're waiting to see if any pressure leaked out of there, Brian gave me the rundown on some of the safety mods, the pin cam, coolant pipes being welded or pinned. As he said, welding it is the ideal solution. This is what it looks like when you get that done. When they were dismantling my motor, one of the coolant pipes did indeed pull out. This is the one that pulled out right there. So if we didn't have an issue before, that was, I guess, not too far away from giving us a big issue. Continuing with the theme of coolant issues on the 997 Turbo. You guys all have probably heard of the Sharkworks fittings that everybody does on these cars. That's those guys right here. They are stainless, I presume, double O-ring fittings that replace these guys. Now this sits on top of the engine, and Brian just told me that they are incredibly hard to get off. You cannot do it with the engine in the car. You have to drop it down. So anytime you have an engine out, you're obviously going to want to do these, and well, we are doing them.
This will completely spin on you, and then you'll lose the passages and you lose oil control to the...
That makes sense. So how exactly do you pin this?
You just put a pin right through there, and then you notch
so this
it.
is the cam.
This one is a pinned one, yeah.
Okay. So I'm sure you guys can see that in there. Literally just looks like a kind of just a pin that you just hammer it in, and that's all it is?
Yeah. Most of the time it's weird. It's always bank 2, the one that wants to spin the most.
Interesting. Is there any reason for that, or is it just how it is?
It's just their design.
Okay.
It's just one of those things that Porsche said, oh, just press it in there and it's good to go.
Gotcha.
But it's not. It spins in there. And if you go to Porsche to fix the issue, they literally just put another brand new cam in it.
It's not fixed.
Which is not fixed.
Okay.
So that's why actually, doing it this way is forever. I mean, honestly, if you do the coolant pipes and pin the cam, you keep one of these things, at a manageable horsepower, it'd be like your friggin' Toyota Corolla.
It sounds like that's the plan. Yeah, that's the plan for me. I want it to run. Well, I want it to make like 800, 900-ish and still run for a while.
Yeah.
And not look like this.
Not look
so.
like that.
Obviously, after going through all this, it would make no sense whatsoever to put the engine back in the car without doing every single possible maintenance, reliability mods. We're going to knock all that stuff out because, again, we'd be really, really dumb not to. And you might be watching these early videos thinking, you are kind of dumb because I bought this car, but I'm dumb, not that dumb.
She is. Whoa.
Disgusting. How a lot of people are. Like, Alright, this is our first, I guess, moment of truth, if you want to call it that. This is the first real failure point. Everything's looked good thus far, but just pulled the cylinder head off here. Well, let me clarify. We didn't do it. He did. I'm just standing here holding the camera. I mean, the cylinder walls look really good.
Yeah, they'll do their little scoring on the top and bottom. It's just like the boxer horizontally opposed life. Just gotta keep digging.
Slipping a gasket off over studs. It's one of my least favorite things to do. Always gives me trouble.
Oh yeah, and then all my fingers are all cut from these gaskets are like razor blades. The way to assemble these things is really funky. Obviously, you leave these 2 cylinders in and center one out. You gotta slide it together. You gotta line up the rods, and then this gasket always like, yeah. And then you leave this liner out, and you go to assemble it, and it's just all these. It's a lot of steps and pain in the ass. Not just like grab a rod and piston, slide it in.
Yeah.
It's funny because most of the failures that we get is because we're pushing these motors so far.
Yeah.
So they let go.
They let go.
They let go.
Couldn't find anything on the first side of the engine that we dismantled, but I don't know, 2 minutes into the other side, I've already found a little bit of disgustingness. This is the timing chain tensioner, you said?
Yep. Timing chain tensioner for Bang 2.
I mean, I don't know that that's going to necessarily lead us to what's wrong, but it sure is disgusting.
They tend to hold moisture there because it's kind of like a bottom spot, like a little bit of...
Gotcha.
Not moisture, a little bit of filth, like soot and stuff like that. No,
not that.
Yeah, that's gross.
I'll take a little bit of filth, but this is a little much.
I'm not even going to put that on my tray.
We brought him an engine that's so bad he doesn't even want to put it in the organization tray. That's what we're bringing to the table here. When they disassemble these engines, they have a very clear and very accurate process here. This is all the Bank 1 stuff. It's laid out perfectly. I imagine this makes it very, very easy to put back together. No, it's just really hard to pick that up on camera.
Yeah.
But You may or may not have seen that, but we have a very, very, very slightly spun cam. Obviously not the cause of our issues here, but worth noting nonetheless. So we didn't find the failure, but we found a very near failure. So this is the upper bank 2 timing chain tensioner. This upper piece is supposed to be wedged against the bottom. It's supposed to, you know, not look like that. You can practically see through it. It is severely lifted. I'm not sure if the camera is going to pick it up, but also it is bowed out. It's flared. That's supposed to be completely flat. So not good. Looks like we narrowly avoided one there, but we're going to keep digging and see what we find.
Alright.
Well, the visible walls, again, look good. So is there a certain side of the head gasket that typically blows, block side or head side?
Usually they'll push themselves out over here.
Okay.
On high boost stuff.
Gotcha, yeah.
Overheating stuff, it could be
anywhere and everywhere?
That's it.
So he did just point out, if you look at these 3 pistons here, soot, much cleaner. So if you look at these cylinder heads, this is the first side we took off. They're all relatively the same. That one's a little clean there, but I think we were also wiping on that. This one over here is untouched, and again, that center cylinder is just super, super clean. There's also residue here, which kind of looks like that nasty stuff we found in the coolant system last episode.
Try to put like some sealer maybe or something.
Somebody could have put stop leak in it.
That's what it looks like because it's turning into that jelly. That's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to like jelly up and like seal it.
I guess best working theory at this point is there's a sealing issue with this.
Start looking at this
cylinder
center bank.
Center cylinder. I don't know what just came out of my mouth, but it was not what I intended. I presume when you're doing these engines, you deck the heads anyway, correct?
Yeah, deck, especially this one.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's one that came out for like a service or something like that, but for this thing, yeah.
All right, I presume because this oil was so thin, that would have explained the lack of oil pressure, correct?
Yes, you have a lot of variables there. Yeah, I mean, your end result with this thing is going to be you're going to want to make reliable 1,000 horsepower.
Yeah.
So at that point, you go through the motor. Especially as soon as you pull the rod bearings, they're going to be the most beat up, like every engine ever. And if the rod bearings, look good, we know that we're in a good, nice, healthy engine that just needs a little refresh. That's all it is. But I think I'm catching something here. Just hide. So I can see a little bit of light sneaking through here on this one.
So is there a normal amount of light they should be getting through, or is it absolute zero all the time?
So technically, once you start seeing a little bit of light, you're supposed to put a feeler gauge in there and see where we're at.
Yeah,
and that's when you could really tell, but it's kind of like just something so I can figure out where to start looking.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what it's looking like, it's bowed in the middle.
Well, I mean, that would make sense, I suppose, by the middle cylinder. And by bowed, you mean it is a low point, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Like it bananaed itself.
Yeah.
That's what it's looking like.
So theoretically, if I were to hold down on this side, you might get a bigger gap over there?
Yeah, if you try to hold it, you should be able to... Yep, because before I couldn't shove anything in there.
All right, guys, I don't think the camera's going to pick it up. But these 2 head studs here are significantly lighter than the rest of them. These all have normal oil residue on them. This looks like something else. Now, this is backed up by the fact that this is what it looks like when you scrape a normal head stud. Just like that right there. And these 2 marks here that are really, really wet and kind of nasty looking are from these 2 head studs. So he thinks that head is slightly bowed. Either that or there's a head gasket failure here, something like that. Now, what can happen in these, which is not typical of some other cars, is if you get coolant in contact with these head studs, it can actually make its way into the crankcase. So that would explain the intermix. It's right on the cylinder that is significantly cleaner than the rest. That would explain the smoke. I suppose there's not a lot left here to figure out other than do we have to split the case or not, right?
That's it.
So what this comes down to now, and it is going to be a big swing in money. Do we have to split the case? He's going to pull the cylinders out of it and check a rod bearing. If the rod bearing is bad from having this water in there, from having very thin oil and being rammed for whatever period of time, then we're going to have to split the case. There's no getting around it because we're not putting this thing back together with questionable bearings and then toasting a new however many $1,000 engine. If the rod bearing is good, then we may be able to get away without splitting the case. Just do rod bearings, do a build from the case up. So we're going to see what the deal is with that. For once here, I am very much crossing my fingers that we have good bearings. I've been wanting to find an obvious failure here all day. I don't want it to be that. All right, guys, in case you don't know, this is my first time seeing this, and that is such a weird / cool design.
Yeah, it's like a motorcycle.
Exactly.
So what people don't realize with these things is, I guess it's like an air-cooled case.
Yeah.
And then they started adding...
I see that, because this is where the individual stuff would bolt in, correct?
Yep, that's why you see it's got 4 studs per
Yeah.
cylinder versus, you know, you would technically share a stud here on a regular engine.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, that makes a lot of sense.
I mean, there's obviously slight differences to the case because it is more modern. They change it, but technically, it's, you know, that's what it is. Yeah, like you see that one, you know,
it's designed that way. Yeah, exactly. I don't think I've showed you guys this yet. This is a 991 turbo engine, which looks completely different. This just looks like a big Subaru, and that thing over there looks like its own whole mess. I do have to take a second and say this. These pistons, there's a reason everybody says you can leave them stock and still make sometimes 1,000 horsepower. They are beefy. They look nice. There's pretty much no scenario in this build which we're going to do a set of pistons, and now I see why. I see they look like good aftermarket pistons, which is hilarious.
Nice and solid. See how it moves in and out.
Yeah.
Super easy, so we know we got no weird...
weird burrs, weird wrist pin issues.
Yeah, that or something changed shape, like the high boost stuff. You'll
Yeah.
see where something along either the wrist pin changed shape or the bottom, the piston changed shape.
This is definitely excitement. This is either way. At least we're gonna have an answer here. This is, I don't know what, a $10,000 rod we're about to pull.
Maybe more.
Now I don't know how common this is on other Porsches, but it's pretty cool. They're studs, right?
Studs.
Okay. I'm starting to see why these things hold up well. I know the rods bend and everything, but
Yeah, I mean, the main thing with these things is like Joe told you, is people like 6 gear, wide open, going. You know, the thing is these motors make a ton of torque. They're literally, you're making 900 horsepower, you're making 900 foot-pounds of torque.
Yeah. Wow.
So you know, it's not like
Can't wait. Can't wait.
they hit really, really nice.
So what was that? Just smacking the cap off of it?
Yeah, pushing the cap back, keep everything in order. So when I go to check everything, inspect everything, say which cylinder was this on.
I don't even want to look. Oh, that looks
really good.
That looks great.
Yeah.
I was getting nervous there for
And
a
that's
second.
the load side. Usually that's the side that that gets the most abuse.
So far, so good.
Yeah, no complaints here. Should look better than that other engines over there.
If he doesn't have complaints, I definitely don't have complaints. Yeah, the crank itself in there, from what I can see, looks pretty good. I don't know what to say. Again, you're the expert, so I'm sitting here at a loss for words. Like, I don't want to be like, yeah, guys, we're good, and then it not be good.
So far, it looks like you don't need to split the case.
Okay, we will go.
Which will
with
save
that.
you a lot of money.
Yes, absolutely. This is my I just saved possibly more than $10,000 face. All right, guys, we are 5 piston and rods out, 5 piston and rods good. No bearing issues. In fact, he said they're some of the cleanest he's seen on one of these engines. However, as good as this looks, it's not time to stop holding our breath yet. We have one more team. Moment of truth here.
A+.
A+. I mean, I wouldn't expect anything about this car to be A+, but I mean, you're the expert, so if you're telling me it's A+,
yeah,
I'm going with A+, because everything else on this car has been, I don't know, D-. I'm not going to say F, but D-. It's been bad.
Maybe I gave it a little bit higher than I should have, but no, it's good. It's good.
Okay.
It's really good.
Okay, perfect. That means I'm pretty sure unless they find something later, unless I get a bad phone call a couple days from now, this thing's going to stay together. This is as good of a day that you can possibly have when you have something under your engine that looks like that. That looks very bad. it turns out this is not so bad after all. All the stuff that was, running around in that looks actually pretty good. And you did say one piston had a little skirt wear, and there was one slightly bent rod, I believe?
Number 3.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, you can very easily pick that up on camera. So, is that anything to heavily worry about? Is that we're gonna have to replace that piston?
I'll check it over.
Okay.
Make sure we don't have a out of shape piston and stuff like that. But
and then this was the
I've seen it
same
before.
rod, right?
Yeah. I don't know if you'll pick that up.
Very, very slightly. So you might be able to see it there. This is just a little bit that way, and I think you might be able to pick it up a little bit, but you're gonna have to take my word for it if you can't. All right, guys. Obviously, this could not have went better. I walked in here expecting to have to split this case. I actually didn't know it was a possibility that we would get away without splitting the case. I figured the bearings were going to be shot, at least have some kind of wear, and I kind of thought that was inevitable. Turns out, it's not the case. So I'm going to get finished up in here. I'm going to go discuss turbo options among other things with Joe, and then I'll finish up with you guys here in just a second. We just sat down with Joe and Ryan. We came up with a fantastic plan for this car. I am super, super excited. Now, I am going to save those details for another episode. However, just know good things are in the works. As I've said multiple times, I've kept you guys waiting long enough. We're getting straight away to pulling footage. We're going home and editing right now. I hope to have this video out tomorrow. Make sure you go show AIM Performance some love. I'll put all their socials, their website, everything down in the description. They've been super, super accommodating with me coming by here. I was here for 5 hours today. Every single person I've dealt with there has been super, super cool, super down to earth, and honestly, they seem genuinely excited about this project. And just for context, guys, this is not a sponsorship. Everything I'm saying about them is because I've had a great experience thus far. I think it's fairly obvious at this point why they have the reputation that they do, and needless to say, I can't wait to experience an AIM-powered 911 turbo. Now, as for what's immediately next, I anticipated this engine build taking a little longer than they're telling me it's going to. I was planning on sending the car off to paint and getting started on bodywork, but I'm scared to do that, and then they called me and tell me the engine's ready. So I don't really know where we're going to go from here. We have some odds and ends we can finish up. We have some other stuff we can install. In fact, one of the major pieces to the build just showed up at the shop today. Of course, I'm not there to see it, but, we'll get back there tomorrow and take a look. As much as I hate to admit defeat and ruin the suspense at this point, I mean, we're obviously not LS swapping it, guys. Yes, it was a consideration at first, but now that we're this far in, it's getting Porsche powered. Honestly, as much as I was deep down kind of looking forward to pissing everybody off, we're gonna have to save it for another day. As for what the next video is going to be, I have no idea. We have a ton to accomplish. I don't even know where to start at this point. Again, we're still waiting on a couple parts here and there, so there's not one obvious answer, but we'll certainly be back very shortly with something. One more time, thanks again for sticking it out with this long wait in between the first couple videos. It makes me really happy to see how many of you guys are excited about this project like I am, though my wallet, not as excited. So stay tuned, guys. Make sure you subscribe, like, share, comment, all that good stuff, and I will see you guys next time. Hose lane, yeah, hell yeah, brother. Hose lane. Sick. And what a dork. He always finds his way into my videos. He's early too. While we're in Connecticut, we're also going to meet a guy to sell Dalt's FD bumper, which I know what you're thinking. I've seen Dalt's FD. He should be buying parts, not selling parts, but you're going to have to ask him on that one. It honestly feels like Christmas morning. Look, I don't f up enough by myself. I'm out here looking like an idiot anyway, and you guys want to f with me. God, can't do anything a piece here. I was on my 20th take. I was about to get it right. He's looking for you. I don't know what he's looking for. He's just standing at the door like a creep. Jeez, what a weirdo. These roads, man, Jesus. Never finishing this. It's not happening. Here we go. Good stretch. Let's go. F New Jersey drivers. F that guy. Yeah, I forget to turn on the mic. Stuff like that happens, and I have to record the segment about this whole stupid paper towel over and over and over. I try to, have a decent voice for this stuff, and I'm like, God, I sound like an idiot. And
that's what I think. I'm like, what the?
Well, nobody can hear themselves, right?
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
And I take this out in editing, obviously, but these guys have heard it all day. I'll say the same sentence 3 times over, stutter halfway through, and have to back up 2 feet and do it all over again. But we manage. We get through it even though we're not great at this.